Hey everyone, on this week's episode of NY Seed Round, I have Phat. He's the founder and CEO of a company called Noots. Noots offers custom-made nutraceuticals backed by a mobile application. Phat is an accomplished second-time founder. He's a Theil Fellow, and he's super passionate about a topic called biohacking, which admittedly, I don't know much about, but we're gonna find out. With everything that's being written about folks like Brian Johnson, I wanted to learn a little bit more about it, hear what tips he has for other founders, and potentially how biohacking can be a part of everyone's life. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did, and let me know down in the comments, what are some of your favorite health and wellness hacks? Phat, thanks for joining me. You have a really interesting background. I'm excited to dive into biohacking and sort of what you're building, but I got to start. You have a very James Bond villain-esque background. How did you go from bioengineering to starting a biohacking company?
Justin, well, first off, thank you so much for having me. My short story was I was born in Vietnam. I immigrated here. My parents were entrepreneurs. So I grew up kind of like just really knowing only how to build things.
Yeah.
And I ended up studying aerospace engineering when I was 17. I picked up a scholarship with US Navy, and I ended up building a company. It was one of the first data AI companies in the automotive industry to help small businesses streamline everything from how they talk to their customers all the way down to how they talk to their cars. And it was during that company that I saw the movie Limitless. Have you seen the movie Limitless?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. No, so I saw the movie Limitless and I wanted to become limitless. So I started Googling was the NZT pill real from the movie. And for the audience, for anyone that's not seen the movie Limitless, but it's about a character that takes a pill and all of a sudden he becomes very smart. He's able to talk, be very successful. And he made a lot of money, and it's centered around kind of like the story of taking this pill. And I dove down kind of like this vast world of like supplements, nootropics, which are like smart drugs, biohacking, which is kind of like the art and science of becoming superhuman, where you kind of control what you put in and out of your body and environment so that you can give yourself an advantage. And I kind of tried everything I can get my hands on over the years, whether that was putting butter in my coffee or meditation. And I kind of figured out a lot what worked and what didn't work for me.
What didn't work?
Oh man, a lot.
I hope that butter in your coffee did not work.
No. So butter in my coffee did work.
What?
Yeah, no. So it's based on the keto diet, actually.
Oh, okay. All right.
And if you blend it with brain octane oil, which is C8 coconut oil, it's a branded form C8 coconut oil, it basically enables you to burn fat as a fuel source. Wow. Right? So you burn the fat from the butter as a fuel source, and you're in a state of ketosis. Your body eventually starts burning fat first, right? So that's a survival mechanism. And you can actually induce that by just eating a lot of fat, right? And then training your body to burn fat as a fuel source versus glucose, which is carbs or sugar.
Gotcha. So you're going through this phase of, experimenting with different things and you're finding what works for your body, but then how do we get to Noots?
After my first company, we sold the IP to a large kind of like auto brand. I got the Theil Fellowship from that process, and I ended up just sharing a lot of my experiences on the internet randomly.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was around productivity, but my kind of like twist on productivity, it wasn't more like a Tim Ferriss kind of twist, but it was like, oh, you should probably optimize your sleep. You should take these certain supplements. And a lot of it was around like biohacking. And it kind of found a niche among a lot of people that were entrepreneurs, investors, and other business owners.
Right.
And people started reaching out to me a lot about my experiences, whether that is them asking me, how do I buy this? Or more questions on how it works. It turns out a lot of the questions at the time, this was like pre-COVID, were very, very similar. So I was like, I should probably turn this into a project, because my focus at the time was I was sharing a lot about my experience because I really wanted to figure out which industry I wanted to focus like my next chapter of my life on.
But the things you're getting a positive reception on more than anything else is that.
Yep, exactly. So I was like, maybe I should just turn this into a project, right? So I ended up making a 6-week online course to teach people how to optimize their health and avoid sickness. It was called 10X PRB. It was short for how do you 10X your productivity and become resistant to burnout? And that course ended up blowing up because I ran Facebook ads to it. And I started basically having people reach out to me and they're like, hey, could you sit down with me and I'll pay you anywhere from like $250, $500 an hour to help me kind of like figure out like what is legitimate in this industry and what's not. Could you help me build my own ideal nutraceutical stacks, nootropic stacks, right? Nutraceuticals are basically all natural science-backed ingredients from natural sources that have a pharmacological effect. So think about your supplements that actually work, right?
Right.
And then nootropics are a part of that. So people are asking me and paying me to help them build their own stacks. And right before COVID, I was doing this, and then COVID hit, and then I started doing this like remotely. A lot of the people were kind of like getting really good results from this. So I had my two friends like ended up reaching out to me. They're like, hey, we're seeing a lot of like good things about this industry. Like, would you want to collaborate on a project for this? So anyways, we started collaborating on a project for this. And then I saw like the world was changing super rapidly. First off, telemedicine rates were 55x that year compared to the year before. Health costs were like $400 per month that year compared to the year before. And across the globe, more and more people were just willing to challenge the traditional medical establishment and seek alternative ways to kind of get in control of their health. So the projects that we're doing were around like nootropics and biohacking. We wanted to launch products in the industry. But then I saw all these changes. I was like, I think that you could actually put really cool technology behind this and probably build a venture-backed company in the space, because it's probably one of the few times that timing is going to be in your favor.
Because I imagine it's more than just the product, and we'll get into that. Like, how do you succeed today in the realm of CPG, especially as a VC-backed company? One thing I wanted to ask you is the name of Noots. First, what is Noots for those that don't know?
So Noots is my company that personalizes nutraceuticals for modern consumers.
I think this is one of them.
Yep. And we are basically building the world's largest data AI company for personalized medicine. Because the thesis was, with the rise of AI, we think that we could do everything that I did as a health and human optimization coach, but in a way more scalable way. And we want to give people on-demand access to energy, focus, sleep, and sexual wellness. And by doing that, we think that we're not just making really great products, but we're also building a platform where you get AI health coaching and also access to health professionals all in one place.
So give me an example of a problem that the app helps you solve.
Yeah, so how do you focus better, right? Okay. So we recommend you boxes of nootropics that are customized to your lifestyle demographics and goals. And the products that you have there are actually our starter kits. So in the future, you should be able to talk to an AI and get a blend of nutraceutical compounds that are customized to your specific needs.
Oh, nice.
And then you work with this coach to actually teach you how to use it. Whether that is how do you focus better as you're using Get Focused Noots, right? Or that's our men's natural testosterone replacement and Viagra, a testosterone booster and Viagra replacement. Whether that is working with a coach to help you have higher testosterone, and then we'll send you blood testing kits to help you see the before and after results.
Right.
So really, it's just having one place that you can go to for the younger generation to help them know and learn about all these things and build healthier habits in one place.
This is really like a small detail, but I'm very curious because there are many founders I've met who struggled with naming their company.
Yep.
I think the name of the company is really good. Do you have,
Thank you.
How did you come up with it? I guess it's short form of nutraceuticals, but like, do you have any hot takes when it comes to naming your startup?
I'm going to be honest, I don't.
Okay.
I give credit where credit is due.
Okay.
My two friends that I was doing projects with at the time, one of them is really good at marketing and growth. And he was actually the one that proposed the idea, we should call it Noots. And I was like, I think I'm good at naming, but this is pretty this is pretty good. Let's do it.
All right. So the insight is listen to others.
Yeah.
Good suggestions. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that if you have people that really know like the space well, I think that you should lean on them, especially if you're working with them as a team.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I wanted to talk about Noots, about your experience as a founder. I'm also curious about the biohacking topic. I don't know a ton about it, and I bet and one thing I'm noticing, Brian Johnson of the world, they're consuming the attention of a lot of founders today around the idea of longevity. So to the uninitiated, what is biohacking, and why do you think it's a competitive advantage for founders?
my definition of biohacking is basically the art and science of becoming superhuman, right? Where you control what you put in and out of your body and environment so that you can give yourself a competitive edge, right? This goes into your second question. Why is biohacking something that could be a competitive edge, not just to founders, but for anyone that kind of like wants to have better energy, focus, motivation, whatever it may be, right? I think that if you're in business, it's really important because you should treat your body kind of like an athlete treats their body, right? If you are able to perform better, think better, get things done faster, have more energy as you do it, while working hard and smart at the same time, you're probably gonna be able to produce more than any other founder that's not doing that.
Got it. So yeah, you're a founder, you're busy pitching customers, you're managing a ton of things, like work-life balance isn't a thing because you're building your company. So it makes sense that you want to be in a good state of mind, in good health. If you're a founder that's never encountered biohacking, what are like 5 tactical things they can do today safely to start introducing it into their life?
Oh yeah, start with safe. No, just kidding.
Fair enough.
No, look, I think that going back to why it's important, I think that biohacking is not just good for all the things that we just mentioned, but if you can do it efficiently and effectively, like you just mentioned, as a busy founder, that's where it gets fun. Because then these things stack on top of each other, right? I think that if you would like to start thinking about biohacking your health more, right? I think that the basics you should start thinking about first before even jumping into biohacking, right? I think that consistent sleep or good recovery is number one. Number two is having a diet that you see results from, right? Whatever diet that may be, for whatever goals you may have at the time. Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
So for example, I was keto, but I'm no longer keto because my goals change, right? So have a diet that works for you. And then number 3 is move your body. Be active, whether that is doing some sort of physical movement between meetings or actually hitting the gym. I think hitting the gym is really, really important.
Yeah.
And breaking a sweat.
Silly question. Do you ever feel like you just don't have time to work out that day? How do you overcome that feeling?
I go through ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
Let's just say like I'm reviewing my goals. I'm like, oh, one of my goals is to actually hit the gym.
Yeah.
And I'll probably just commit to it. I'll just say, I just got to suck it up.
Got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've gone through periods where I've dropped the ball on working out, but I get to this place where if I don't work out, I just don't feel good.
Yeah,
so then the negatives of that is like, I got to hit the gym.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you went to the gym right before this. So.
No, definitely. That's why I'm a little antsy right now.
Well, I'm honored that you wanted to get amped for this. So this is great. So one other thing I wanted to ask you about, in your X bio, your description, it says you're a Noots dealer. I think that's just a small little example of creativity that I appreciate when I see it. How do you stay creative as a founder?
Every founder should, after you have like the 3 basic pillars down, you should get a vibration plate. So I think that this is a really cool.
What is that?
So it's a plate that vibrates, and you could set the frequency of the vibration, but usually 30 hertz is the most studied. And vibration plates were originally used for NASA because after astronauts come back from space, their body's actually a lot weaker because there's no gravity in space.
Right.
So they needed ways to train and rebuild muscles really fast. And also,
like your stabilizers.
Yeah, also promote active recovery. So if you work out on a vibration plate or if you just stand on it, it's a really good thing to help you move your lymphatic system, which helps you take out toxins from your body a lot faster. And if you use it with functional movements, right, it's a really good way to work out. And you can actually just stand on it between meetings without doing anything. I think that if you start tracking your sleep, it's a really good way to just be aware of your cycles. And then you can actually start experimenting. So I think it's cool because it gives you kind of like a baseline without doing anything.
About that though, how do you keep the negative thoughts from creeping in of like, oh no, I didn't get enough sleep. My score isn't 100.
You have to have an experimental mindset. And I think that that's the whole thing with like biohacking. It's like, you don't know if it's going to work. Right? But if you are willing to try different things to see what works for you, they call them like one of N experiments. Like it's an experiment based on yourself to see how you feel and whether or not the data changes, right? But then it first starts with how you feel. Having the end goal in mind will help a lot with the negative thoughts, just like any other goal that you're going after, whether it's in business or life, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Can you build a connection for me? One thing I'm curious about is like with the, all the conversation around Brian Johnson, and there seems to be a lot around founders and longevity. Why is there such a strong correlation between startup founders and this interest in longevity?
So I think that there's probably like two camps. There's probably one camp where people are naturally afraid of dying and you want to do everything that you can to avoid death, right? And I think that in ambitious people, that might be a lot stronger because not everyone may have put their debt in the universe yet, right? And I think that there may be another camp where people just see that they really enjoy what they're doing. And if getting old and needing support and these other things inhibits them from continually doing that, that's also why they're very motivated to stay younger, right? And I think that across both of those two camps, there are people that actually just naturally want to continue optimizing so they perform better, right? Which is simple biohacking.
Yeah.
Why do I think that there's such a mass following among like startup founders? I don't know.
Yeah.
I
have a hypothesis.
Okay. What's your hypothesis?
Okay, my hypothesis is that to build a startup, you've built a successful startup in the past, you're building one now. It requires a lot of your time, a lot of focus and sacrifices. So perhaps I think the average age of like a successful founder is like 41, maybe. By the time you've done it, you may have felt like you missed out on other things. So you want more time. But then I think to myself, and then I'm like, well, Elon Musk keeps founding new companies. So it's, how much is enough? So what do you think about my hypothesis that it's like you have to make certain sacrifices so you want to make up for that lost time?
It's a pretty good hypothesis, I think it falls into the bucket of like, yeah, people want to continue extending their time here as much as possible.
Yeah. What about introducing technology? Where do you see this space going? Like introducing technology into the human body, like Neuralink, for example. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no. So my initial reaction to Neuralink was it felt too evasive. My reaction now has changed a lot because have you seen
I saw the chess video.
Yeah. So have you seen the video where the first patient talks to the Neuralink team?
No.
Okay. You should watch it. It's on Twitter. It's about it's on my wall. I think that's one of the last things I retweeted. But he's just like this really happy guy that happens to be paralyzed, right?
Yeah.
And the way that he speaks about the product, it seems to be life-changing for him, right? I think that the mission's on point. I'm bullish on the product. If we can get things like security down. Yeah. Because look, I think that people are susceptible to doing things when it comes to just like naturally persuasive people already. Imagine having AI being able to hack into you, right?
Right.
I think that if we can get security down, and understand other parts of it, maybe like not go through the brain, right? Maybe go through a nerve that connects to the brain, right?
Yeah.
And make it way less invasive. I think that it's something that I could see being very valuable in many, many different industries. And also it bridges this gap between kind of like spirituality and tech, right?
Right.
Because one of the things that the patient said in his interview was, I can't explain to you what it's like to be able to control all these things. My closest like explanation is like this, because you won't get it, is that when I move my hand, when I think and move my hand, I actually feel like my hand's moving.
Yeah.
But when I look down, it just doesn't move. So as other people that haven't been paralyzed, what does that mean, right? Maybe
it's a phantom limb. It's like when somebody loses an appendage, they still feel it in the shower when they're showering and moving.
Exactly.
Neural connections.
So like for us, that's actually very hard to conceptualize, right? The closest is probably like you're playing a video game.
Yeah.
or an AR video game, right? VR video game. And like you're moving into the characters doesn't I feel like, but even then, like you can't conceptualize it, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, I can't tell you how it actually like feels. I can't even explain it in words, what it's like to be able to just think and do something.
Yeah.
But there's like something that's going on that I feel like you have to just experience it.
I want to shift gears a little bit. So one thing that people may not know about you is you're a Thiel Fellow.
Yep.
Tell me more about the Thiel Fellowship, and for folks that may not know about it, for founders that may not know about it, and what's the value it's brought to you?
Yeah, so the Thiel Fellowship was founded by Peter Thiel, who founded PayPal. And his original thesis was schools were not that good, and you could probably create more value if kids just didn't go to school and were able to be given the opportunity to work on things that could change the world. The original program started with 20 kids under the age of 20 being given a $100,000 fellowship to pursue their dreams. Over the years, it's attracted a lot of younger startup founders, researchers, or movement makers, right? So I dropped out originally because I heard about the Thiel Fellowship, right? Going back to my original story, I was driving to school one day for summer classes, and I heard my now friend, and he's actually also an investor in Noots now, Jared Kleiner, talk about his experiences meeting his co-author of a book that they were writing called 2 Billion Under 20 at a Thiel Fellowship Summit, because back then they hosted summits for kids that were thinking about dropping out, have dropped out, or other Thiel Fellows, just to all meet, hang out, build their networks, right? He was talking about this thing, and at the time, I actually didn't know that you could drop out. I didn't know that you could actually start a company as a kid. This was while we were in the few weeks, it was like perfect time, in a few weeks where we were conceptualizing my experience from having my car broke down to the hackathon and then accelerator applications, right? So this was in between where like, what do we do? You know?
Yeah.
So, and they invited me to a Thiel Fellowship Summit. And at that summit, my kind of limiting beliefs about school, because my original beliefs were like, I had to go to school, had to get a job. And that was the only thing that I could do.
Probably the hardest challenge is like, how do you tell your friends and family that you're doing this decision? That's
yeah, no,
a great
definitely.
thing to do.
Definitely. But going to the summit, I met a lot of other kids that have already dropped out, younger than me, building cool things. And at the time I was like, wow, I guess you could do it, right? So my limiting beliefs were kind of like broken. And I went into entrepreneurship because I was like, hey, if they could do that, I could probably do that as well. Yeah. Talking about it to family and friends, right? I think that's definitely a different beast in itself. My dad flew down the day that I texted him. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about dropping out. He was like, took me out to dinner. He was like, you're not dropping out. Because I was one of the first in my family to go to college.
Yeah.
And I had a full ride at the time with the U.S. Navy's nuclear department.
Bioengineering,
yeah. So he flew down and he was like, I don't want you to drop out.
Yeah.
But I support you, just don't tell your mom that. So I was just like, okay, cool. Then we started applying to accelerators and we had an excuse to put school on hold, right? But as Asian, as someone that has Asian parents, right? That's a big no-no, right? And we're like, I feel like most parents would not like that, but they didn't talk to me. My mom didn't talk to me for like maybe 6 months after I dropped out. But after that, like, I think like, after they were able to see that I was able to do something and not die, right?
Yeah.
I think that, I think they began to like trust me as well. So I think that if you are considering dropping out, for the audience, I think that start building things, because eventually you're going to have a strong enough conviction in like something or people that you work with, some sort of like motivation that's like intangible.
Don't figure it out after, like you'll start to build an inkling for something and then maybe make the decision.
Yeah. Gotcha. I think that my initial kind of like gut feeling was, oh, I feel like I should probably build this and continue building it, because I think that I'd like to see myself like building something like really
right
amazing, like these other people I've met. And my gut told me that that was the better kind of like career path, you call it, at the time.
Why do you think more founders should apply to the Thiel Fellowship?
It gets you to think clearly about like how you think about like your work in life, right? I think that that's the first thing.
Yeah.
And if you're able to make a really like compelling like reason or answers for kind of like the questions based on your experience, you'll meet a lot of other founders if you get invited to kind of like a finalist weekend that are doing the same thing.
Right.
And regardless of whether or not you get the fellowship, those friends will they're gonna be your friends, right?
That's great.
So for example, like I didn't get the fellowship the first finalist weekend that I came. I got invited to. I got it the second time, right? But my first finalist weekend, I think like, not to name drop any names, but like Alexander Wang, the founder of Scale, right? He was part of the finalist weekend. And I'm pretty sure I've been friends with him on Facebook. I'm not saying like I talked to him that much, but like people like that are really within reach. And this is like before they built like anything big, right? And I think that having peers that kind of like motivate you, and also that you get to see kind of like grow up over the years.
Well, we were talking about this beforehand, but you had mentioned that what are you, the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that it ups the bar for, well, okay, look, you can have friends that maybe just like smoke weed every weekend and like don't do anything, right? Or you can have friends that like, oh, the norm is like to build something great. Those people, you're naturally going to want to build something great, right? And you are the top, you are like the average of the top 5 people you surround yourself with, right?
Yeah.
And I think like programs like YC, the Theil Fellowship, I think that you were saying earlier, right?
Yeah.
Do like create like a lot of success because culturally, a lot of people believe that it's the norm to do X, Y, and Z, right?
That makes sense. Maybe 2 more questions. One is, we're pretty big supporters of New York founders. Why are you building this company, or why are you located in New York? What do you think about the New York City tech ecosystem overall?
Ask me that again in maybe like 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that New York is attracting a lot of people that are more rounded when it comes to founders and other people that are building in tech, right? I think that perspective lets you kind of like see things very differently. Right. Also, so I lived in San Francisco before this, right? Love San Francisco. The one thing that I didn't like about San Francisco was everyone was talking about tech all the time. And I think that's a double-edged sword, right? I think that it is really good to meet a lot of like smart people. But also it could be really bad if that's like the only thing you understand.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right?
That makes sense.
So I think that New York has this blend of like fashion, art, like all these people around kind of like tech.
Yeah.
That you could probably do really amazing things with, right? Like for example, I think that like we sponsored a bunch of like Lunar New Year gala events and other like events that for a consumer brand, it's those are good events for us to be at, you know? That is the cool thing about New York. There's a lot of serendipity here.
Right. Makes sense. You successfully exited your first company. What's one mistake that you made your first time building a company that you're looking to avoid the second?
Oh, man. So I had this like reflection, like as a second time founder, you think that when you start it, right? I think like you have a lot of expectations when you start something the second time, right?
Yeah.
Probably not going to stop making mistakes.
Yeah.
And sometimes you probably make the same mistake that you did at your first company. But here's the difference. You have more wisdom, less ego, and more experience to change course and stop those things before they're detrimental.
Yeah.
And I think building a startup is one of those things where, you know, sometimes people just die from 1,000 cuts internally. It doesn't take a competitor to crush you, right? And I think that just having the wisdom to know and like adjust course in those moments is really important. Also, we talk about mistakes like there is a de facto way to do things. Sometimes there is, right? But many times when you're faced with a decision that you don't know about, or where there's a lot of uncertainty, there's probably no right or wrong answer. It's probably how you react to things as things come up,
Right.
making the decision that goes into it. And of course, like, more experience helps you make a better decision. But I don't think that there's ever like a right decision.
I think that's a refreshing take for a lot of people that are just starting, that are like, is there anything that I will do or any mistakes that I could make that will kill my company overnight? And maybe there are, but in general, like, you're always learning no matter how many at-bats you have, even the experienced folks are. So, well, thank you so much for stopping by, Phat. We're really excited about, what you're building at Noots. We're rooting for you. And of course, we love New York founders. So,
hey, thank you so much. Yeah, no, this is awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me. And hopefully the audience learned something about biohacking.
I sure did.
Right on.